Hello, welcome back to the Megan Daubert podcast. I am Megan, and if you are watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you can see once again, I am not alone. I have a friend joining me today on this episode. We are going to kind of jump into this point that we're at in the story, the end of March, and Michael and I have been in Shepherd Center for a really long time, and we've reached that point where the days are really long and like grief and sadness is really setting in, and I called for a lifeline. So real quick, Jenny, this is my dear friend, Jenny Collins. Say hello to the world.
Hello, world.
Jenny and I go way back. We became good friends in middle school. And Jenny is unique to this story and our relationships because you actually also knew Michael for that long too. I mean, I think you met him first.
Yeah.
So Jenny knows Michael Daubert. Jenny knows me. We were good friends in middle school, high school, and then we were college roommates. So Jenny has been in my life for years through so many different seasons and was there all throughout me and Michael's dating relationship. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding and just somebody who we've done a lot of life together. And I just really felt like she was a safe space for me. So Jenny and her husband, Pat, came to visit us in the first hospital when Michael was on a ventilator and not doing well. They just drove down. They're in Northern Virginia. We're Virginia Beach. Drove down to see us, check in on us. They're that kind of people. But then when the months or the weeks went by and it was clear that I'd be going down to Atlanta with Michael, Jenny at one point had sent me a text message saying something along the lines of, hey, I'll come to Atlanta if you need me. And I remember a couple of my dear sweet friends, I know who you are, said that to me. And I remember like tucking that away, being like, wow, that's a big deal. But then not thinking I was going to act on it. But after a few weeks being there, I realized, okay, I need somebody. So I reached out to Jenny. Jenny, why did you even offer that in the first place? Because that's quite a sacrifice.
I mean, seeing you guys in the hospital, you had so many people around you at the time. I mean, it was amazing, like seeing everybody there. But I knew once you got to Shepherd Center, like you were going to be by yourself and that community wasn't going to be there. And there would probably be downtime that you would be sitting there and feeling the absence of Michael and feeling the absence of the community. And I just knew that if that had been me, I would have wanted someone sitting with me. I think a lot of times it's like these big events happen, these traumatic things happen, and everyone's like looking for the right thing to do or the right thing to say. And like I couldn't love on your kids, but other people were. And I couldn't bring you the meals because I wasn't in Virginia Beach. But I knew that like some of those people that were like holding down the fort in Virginia Beach couldn't leave there to come and be with you and just be a friend. So to me, it was just like, I just felt like if I had been in your shoes, I would have just wanted a friend, just somebody that you could either cry to and talk to, and another person that could hear and experience like what you were going through. I mean, that's the other thing. You had to carry all those conversations, all the things you were doing with Michael by yourself. There wasn't somebody like next to you that you could go like, did you hear what the doctor said? Or, what did you think about that? Or, you didn't have another set of eyes. Like, so there was that piece, but it was also just knowing that you were probably I just felt like you were probably going to start feeling the loneliness of not having him like as your friend. Like I was telling you the other day, like I constantly live tweet my life to Pat, my husband, like, and I know you and Michael do that too. And so that feeling of like not being able to talk to that person, like I knew that was going to become stronger. And I also selfishly like wanted to spend time with my friend. And like, when are you going to get a time where we got to stay in, a fancy hotel, the Shepherd Center? Like it kind of was weird. Like I know it was like this sterile hospital environment, which like, again, I can't stand that. So I know like for me, I would have wanted somebody to like hold my hand, but also that sterile environment when we were in it felt like a dorm room. Like it felt like we were back in college. It felt like we got to just like be buds. So, I mean, that was
Yeah.
the biggest thing. I just knew, like, if I could do it, I wanted to come and spend time with you, just to have one-on-one time with you when you were going through something that
Mm,
you were going to want a friend for.
absolutely. It still blows my mind because truly, how many of us would stop our life for the sake of a friend? And now I think that is what we're called to, but like, how often do we actually take that and say, yes, we're going to do it? Because I mean, you're a mom of three little girls. You were still
I
breastfeeding,
was
right? Like
pumping. Yeah, I was pumping. And
you,
then that also speaks to, like, Pat would have come if he could have, but he
mm,
made a way for me to be able to come because he's also your friend. He's also Michael's friend.
yes,
So,
yes, yeah.
he was like, if that's going to, like, love and serve Megan, like, of course I'll do it. Of course I'll
Mm,
watch, take I think he had to take off some time off of work and,
yeah.
like, but it was worth it for him
Yeah.
and for me to come down. So,
Yeah, gosh, I so for anybody who is well can put yourself in my shoes, who is a caretaker, who has been the loved one at the hospital with their loved one, there was a moment. It was really hard for me to ask for help or ask for her to act on what she did actually offer. Like I had to trust that she was being honest with me and trust that she truly meant, "Hey, I'll come if you need it." So I remember sitting in my little bathroom one morning before going to Michael's room and being like, I got to do this. I need help. I'm going to wave the white flag of surrender. I'm just going to tell her I need her if she's available to come. And it was like a battle within myself to admit that I needed that much help, which I have become more practiced in that, but it is still
yeah.
tricky. But goodness, it had such payoff and such benefit as you've already described of because it was just so good to be together and um it was just really a treat to have you
I
there.
didn't I didn't know if I would be like Frontline's choice, to like come down. I think that's the other thing. Sometimes
Mhm.
when we've been friends for so long, but we don't live close to each other and we don't see each
Mhm.
other on the regular
Mhm.
now. So I knew that, like, there were other people who might have been more comforting at the time, or like, but I think that it never hurts just to let someone know that you're there and you're willing. And it did take,
Yeah.
I just remember getting your text and being like, yes, like, I was so
Mm.
grateful that you took me up on it, because I had been telling Pat, like, I'm gonna reach back out again and see if she wants me to come. Like,
Mm.
I just
Mhm.
wanted, like, I don't know, like, I figured I could even just come and see you one night if that's all you needed.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I know that's a lot.
I love that. So when you arrived, now you flew in a plane and just like all good friends do, I made you Uber to downtown Atlanta to get to the Shepherd Center. Uh, so, what were your first impressions of either the Shepherd Center or just your first general impressions of arriving at this rehabilitation hospital and finding us there?
First thing is, like, as a friend, I think I kept kind of putting myself in your shoes and thinking, like, how hard it must have been for you to, like, move and have all those moving parts
Mm.
and getting there and, like, having to set yourself up. And I don't remember where I met you first. I think I just came to Michael's room, and I do remember having the thought of, like, seriously, this is a memory center. Why is it so hard to get around here? Like, how am I going to go anywhere? But, like, it was eye opening. Like, you don't really know what you're gonna see. I think in a lot of ways, like, it it felt like blessings, because we would watch people in these large rehabilitation areas, and there were different things. So there might be, like, occupational therapy. I sat in on some speech therapy sessions with you that were more one-on-one, but there were also, like, playing games and playing sports where there would be lots of, like, OTs and patients and family members, and there were people that were learning how to walk for the first time, and, like,
Mhm.
using, like, I remember seeing someone with it was some type of, like, apparatus where you kind of are strapped in, and it
Mhm.
is literally reteaching their legs and their brain how to walk.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, I just remember looking around and being like, thank God that he wasn't needing that, but
Mhm.
also, like, grieving for those families and not knowing, like, where they were going to meet. Some people didn't weren't able to feed themselves, and I know that had been something for Michael
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
but, like, yeah, it and I just remember thinking how varied people's needs were. Like, you would almost look at Michael and think, like, oh, he's okay, but, like, I don't know, that was. And also at the time, your time with him, he was starting to get frustrated. Like, he was
Mhm.
starting to get to the point of, like, Megan, when are we going home? Where's the
Mhm.
car? Where's my phone? Like he was like
Mhm.
really coming back in a lot of ways, and I think that was also like contributing to just like the unrest. But he was also so capable of like talking and joking, and like his intelligence was coming out, and you
Mhm.
had just like started using this you had drawn this timeline. I think it was the
Mhm.
speech therapist or somebody who had kind of given you that as a tool, so that if he kind of got lost in where he was in the day, that you could like point to what he had done that day. You kind of had two things. You had like a timeline that was like, this was the day of your accident. This is how long you
Mhm.
were in the hospital. This is when we
Yeah.
arrived to Shepherd Center. That was like a calendar. And then you like had little icons, you know, like we took a plane to da da da, and we're
Yeah.
going home on this day. So you had like a way to like put him in time and space. And then you also had like a daily schedule, and he had a
Mhm.
clock like right on his wall. Like,
Mhm.
so he would, you know, he would sometimes get lost in this loop of confusion. Like we'd be
Mhm.
talking and then he would kind of come back around to the same thing.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, I never went to speech language. Like it says
Mhm.
it says that it was at 12 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock. I never went. And so, I mean, that contributed to frustration for sure. But I remember that being like a big part of what you were doing was like reorienting him.
Mhm.
And like your role was so, I mean, what those people do is incredible, and how they
Mhm.
work with people and rehabilitating them in so many different ways. But like how they would equip you to talk to him, and just like,
Mhm.
I don't even know, Megan. I feel like a lot of it was just you and your heart, and you just knew how to speak to him and what he needed.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
he would have areas of frustration or confusion, and you spoke to him in a way that like somebody that was trained, like yes, they have that skill to speak, but you spoke to his heart, and you were able to
Mhm.
calm him and settle him
Mhm. Yeah.
because of your presence and because of like who you are. Like he knew you, and he knew
Mhm.
you could be trusted. I remember you saying one time to him, like in one of his frustrated moments, like, um, Michael, like I'm being our brain. Like
Mm.
you don't have to try to remember this. Like I have it, and I'm going to walk you through, and I will go through this. Like you were like, I will go through this a million times. And you did. You would go through it
Mhm.
back and around, explaining to
Mhm.
him why he was there, you know, what had happened, and your patience, like it was incredible. Like it was incredible. And
Yeah.
I think he was so blessed because he had you just walking through it with him over and
Mhm.
over, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, it was really helpful to have you there. Now, we had a couple visitors prior to your visit, but like I felt like you were there for me. And so
Yeah.
like to have you witness him
Yeah.
um and his like his memory issues and to
Mhm.
have just the validation of you sitting there being like, oh my gosh, like you could see
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like you mentioned live tweeting your husband, like you would sit there and be like, oh my gosh, like hang on, let me just tell Pat about this. And
Yeah.
like it just to have someone witness the crazy, I think was really helpful for me in so many levels. um and what you kind of mentioned it, but like, what did you find that was most interesting or most fascinating about Michael at this point in his recovery, like the good and the bad?
Yeah. I mean, the very first thing I think I texted Pat was, it's Michael. Like
Yeah.
this, Michael. And I think, like, I literally multiple times when I would talk to Pat, or even you, like after we would leave the room, I was just like, he's a joy to be around, like an
Yeah.
absolute joy. And I just, again, I think that was partly like that speaks to him as who he is in his spirit.
Hmm.
And and then also like with being with you, like he can be who he is with you. Like,
Hmm.
so there was a level of, even in the discomfort, there was like familiarity.
Hmm.
Um, but he was just like, he was just the best. Like he would joke, like he would, and he
Hmm.
didn't always, sometimes he didn't know he was joking, but like sometimes he did. And sometimes you could get that little smirk in his eye, you
Hmm.
know, like
Hmm.
even, and also like I was astounded by like, I mean, the last time I had seen him, he was still unconscious and he was
Yeah.
still intubated. So,
Hmm.
and that had been a few weeks before, but
Hmm.
by the time I was there visiting you, like when I walked in that room, like he didn't know who I was. But that was another thing that was incredible. Is, like, I think it was either day 2 or 3 when I walked in, he
Hmm.
said he had remembered me being there.
Yeah.
So it was also amazing to like see some of the memories that would come out for him, which, you know,
Mm-hmm.
also brings out like just how your body and your mind like record these like really special times in your
Mm-hmm.
life, like different seasons. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, like I have known Michael for a long time and you for a long time. So, you know, middle school, high school friends, like I know a lot of those people, college friends, I know those
Mm-hmm.
people. So
Mm-hmm.
we could talk about people and he would remember
Mm-hmm.
certain people. So he
Mm-hmm.
didn't really remember Pat, which was funny because Pat's a couple years younger than him from high school. But obviously, like we've been married for, you know, 15, 16 years. But
Mm-hmm.
he remembered me as Jenny Pickett.
Right.
Like
Which
he
is your
said,
maiden name.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
like, but then once I explained to him who I married, like it was amazing to watch him use the information that he did have
Mm-hmm.
to work and map around and find more information. Like I was just astounded by how intelligent he was. Like I remember one time you and I sitting there and he was like battling us about why he was there and that he didn't have brain damage, and
Mm-hmm.
we were like, no, you were explaining like you have an anoxic brain injury, like it has affected your memory, and he wanted to know, well, what parts of my memory. So you were like, okay, executive functioning, like word recall, like, and you know there were some things that he would notice, like sometimes he would say the wrong word for things and you would pick up on that, but he was so interested in where his injury happened. Like we like got on YouTube and found a little clip about the brain and he just like ate it up, and then he like asked like follow-up questions to it, and it just like revealed to me like how intelligent he is, like how his brain, it was like your brain wants to learn. Like he's such a
Right.
learner. He's always been like that, and like
Right.
and just his sweet spirit. Like he was just so like, Megan, do we have any what did he say? He said, do we have any like appointments tonight, or do we have any like who's coming over? Do we
Mm-hmm.
have anybody coming over? Do we have you know, like every night he was asking like who was coming over to hang out. So like you would see this like
Yeah.
social part of him.
Yes.
So he was an absolute joy to be around, and it felt like, I know it was hard because it wasn't the Michael that like you were used to at that time, but he was still there, and that was like amazing
Yeah.
to me, you know?
Yes. Yes. That you just said something which reminds me of one of the funny moments that cracked you and I up. He was hungry for more information, and that was such a good sign. Like he wanted to know why, like what brain, he kept saying, what brain injury? I need to
Yes.
know how. I need to know the solution. I need to know, like he kept
You
saying
need to
that.
talk
And
to the
then
doctor.
and at one point, remember he was sitting with his like his food tray on his table, and he goes, I want papers on my desk in 10 minutes about this. And you and I, like, we lost it. Like as if he was like, yes, sir, CEO of the company,
Yes.
like, and we
Yes.
were his assistants, and
Yes.
he wanted those papers on anoxic brain injuries on his desk, he said, in 10 minutes. And we were like, dude, you're eating mashed potatoes and gravy and Salisbury steak in a hospital.
Yeah.
Like, and we're telling you what you want, but
Yeah.
and I was so thankful you were there in that moment because we laughed and laughed and laughed. And he like chuckled with us, but
Yeah.
not realizing what he had just done. But I mean, it was also, it was funny, a little bit sad, but also
Yeah.
encouraging because
Right.
he was
Right.
like, he was not satisfied with those
Yes.
easy answers.
Exactly.
And now, so in the coming days, we took those cues and we asked for like, okay, let's get printouts. Let's read the scientific journals. And I remember Alexis, our speech therapist, brought me
Mhm.
some printouts and stuff for him to read. And unfortunately, like that's where the breakdown occurred. He couldn't he couldn't understand what he was reading very well. He couldn't retain that information, and it didn't stop the cycle, that memory loop that he was in of, why am I here? I don't know
Mhm.
what's going on with my brain. What are you talking about? I have therapy. So we tried to meet him where he was, but his brain was not healed enough to hold on to any of that. But that was just a really funny moment. Okay, so did you, after the few days that we spent together, what takeaways did you go home with, or just, you are a deep thinker. You are really good at analyzing situations, and you are an empath, and you are just gifted at so many things. So I'm just curious, like what you left with from your time at Shepherd Center with us.
Yeah. I mean, there there's so many things. And I mean, we've touched on some of them. Some of them were just like, just in a respect for Michael, you know, and his
Mm.
like his heart and his spirit, like just, and like, I don't know. I just, I just remember being like encouraged, but also like, yes, the empathy part, like
Mm.
I did walk away feeling like my friend has to like go through this, and that's really hard.
Mm.
And you know, that kind of, I felt that like on a couple of levels, like as a wife, like yeah, I knew how hard it was for you to not have like the Michael that you're used to, and
Mm.
being able to like I mean it,
Mhm.
yeah, the chatting with your spouse, the even like silly simple decisions, like you had to make them on your own, like that. I
Yeah.
just felt that weight. So that like one fleshness of marriage, like it reminded me of it, like one,
Mhm.
because I knew that that was where a lot of your grief was going to come from. But then also like the beauty of the fact that your one fleshness with him, and your patience and your gentleness with him, was part of what was like drawing him out, you know? And I,
Mm.
you know, like I'm not a brain expert. Like you and I, like we loved psychology, and like Michael and I would talk for on end about like the perfect schools and how you can teach kids, and like, you know, we love that stuff, but like it was interesting to see, to me, like it seems like the brain is just so misunderstood, and I think part of that is because there must be some heart and soul component that we don't understand, and that like, you know, there's things that like you could draw out of him because it was like a heart and soul thing, and that was like amazing, seeing his like humor, and seeing like just the banter, or seeing like the way you would relate to one another. Like I think it
Mhm.
it reminded me of just like those soul things that matter between people, and that goes with like
Mhm.
your marriage, and like that is why, you know, it was hard to not have him at that level for you.
Yeah.
But it also helped draw him out. But it's also like, that's the thing about friendship, is like, you know, you and I hadn't had a lot of time together recently before this trip,
Mhm.
but we just like fell back into friendship and joking, and like, you know, like there's this piece of like, I think one of my friends calls it heartstrings or kindred spirits. Like there's that piece of that kindred spirit, I think, that helps you get through like those hard times, whether it's connecting with, you know, the person who's like Michael going through it, or it's connecting to people on the outside that are like drawing you back in. So I don't know, I feel like that's
Mhm.
so like nebulous, but I just walked away like feeling a lot more, you know, in that way. And like,
Mhm.
I don't know, just praying that like that would be kind of what would draw out and draw him back in. I even remember saying that to you, like knowing Shepherd Center was the best place to be cared for, but also just wondering how much more of these memories are going to come back when he's back with his people. Because he was asking, like, when are we going to hang out with so and so? He would talk about people and bring people up. He would say, oh, Carmen, oh my gosh, she's just the best kid, just out of nowhere.
Mm.
And he would say
Mhm.
something about another mutual friend. Oh my gosh, I love them. And draw on people. Like, he's so like connected to people. And I just remember thinking, like, I knew that, you know, working, like you said, you know, you would try to give him that intentional, like really thoughtful learning and reading about the brain, but he couldn't quite get through it. So I knew there were some elementary foundational steps that needed to be there. But I also just felt like watching him interact with you, and then the way he would talk with me, I was like, he's going to get more things as he's back with his people, because that's what makes his heart sing. And that's what's gonna light up his brain.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, I mean, we know it's like brain, like memories are connected to other memories. So like he's gonna remember one thing, and that's gonna light up another memory. And I just remember thinking like that the sterileness of a hospital can
Mhm.
be hard in that. Like you guys made it, like you brought in you know, pictures of the kids, and you had like the posters from people. But I mean, we would look at pictures. I don't know if you remember that. And I remember you telling me that we would even take video of Michael and us together. I remember you saying that some of the therapists cautioned against using that. They said it sometimes could make people upset because they would watch something and be like, I don't remember that, and that could make them upset. But for Michael, when it was in your hands specifically, I think if it had been like a random person, it would not have gone this way, but when those memories and those videos were in your hand and you were showing him, it
Yeah.
was like he was just a part of that memory with you, and he was walking through it and trusting you in what you were saying. So I just I don't know, I was just amazed by that, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fascinating how much we don't know about the brain, but there is some soul connection for sure. Like the I will get to this in future episodes, but like the coming home was scary, but I also just had this resolve that like, no, this is where we've got to be for the sake of his healing. Because yeah, Michael, and not just Michael, I think we were created with
Yeah.
this communal mentality. Like that's why I needed you there. I needed people surrounding my family. We need each other. Michael needed me. I needed him. Like it's just, we were leaning in. I mean, it's healing. It's laughter is medicine and being with
Yeah.
people is medicine. And speaking of laughter, we did a lot of that in our time together. But can you share some of the funny things that we experienced or Michael said? What story sticks out to you?
I mean, there's a couple. Okay, one. I remember he was in one of those loops we had gone through a few times, and it's fatiguing. And
Yeah.
he had gotten to this point where he was like, "What are you even talking about?" And he had his food and right in front of him, and you were like, "Michael, what did you have for dinner?" And he looked, and then he picked up his food and looked underneath the little tin thing to look at his plate, and he goes, "Spaghetti," and we're like, "Michael, you cheated!" I like, he was so hilarious. And then another time, he just made me laugh so hard, so many times. But like he was eating peaches, and he kept offering them to you over and over again. Megan, do you want some peaches? It was like he was forgetting that he was even eating them, but he was being so sweet to you, and he wanted to share. And he's like, "Megan, do you want some peaches?" And you would be like, "No, I'm good." And then after a while, you're like, "Michael, you keep offering me your peaches," and he's like, "I'll always offer you my peaches, babe." And it was just like this, like hilarious. Like you and I laughed so hard because we were like, "Are you kidding me?" Like the double
Right.
entendre. Like,
Mhm,
Michael, you're in the
mhm.
Shepherd Center. Why are you saying something that's just so funny? Like, it's just so funny. He was like just an absolute delight to be with.
Hey, didn't he even say at one point we keep talking about the loop where we keep
Yeah.
explaining you're here because you had a cardiac arrest because and then
Oh
now you
my
have brain
gosh,
injury.
yes.
And at one point he was
Yes.
frustrated. And what did he was
He goes, "What?" So I had some like little heart attack that I didn't even
like
have.
did he say easy little heart attack?
This easy little
It was
heart
just an
attack.
easy little you and I were like, "What?
We were
No."
like, "Do you hear yourself?" And then he like, obviously laughed, but it was just he was so funny. Like the way he was trying to get us to like get on his
Mhm.
level. Like, what are you guys even talking about? Like it
Do
was just an
you
easy little heart attack.
Were you the one who was with us? Did he have a haircut right before you left? Did we go
Yes. Oh
upstairs?
yes. Yes. Yes.
Once a month they offered haircuts and people would come and donate their time and services to cut anyone's hair for the patients there. And we standing in line. We're saying this live. We have not talked about this offline. But he said something that was like so accurate. Right? It was a long line. There was like
Yes.
15 people in front of him and then you have the two people getting their haircut on either side of the line. And didn't he like kind of look at all of us and he was like, this is very weird right now. And we were all like, you're not wrong.
You're
Like
not wrong.
everything about this just is a little weird. And I
Yeah.
mean, just he didn't mean it in a funny way, but
No.
but his observation and this like that was he was being polite about it. He kind of whispered it to us, but his filter like system in his brain, he just
Yes.
said whatever he wanted. So he was
Yeah.
like, this seems a little weird right now. And we were all like,
Exactly. We were
yeah,
like, but then you laugh because you're like, these people are used to them saying these comments,
yes,
like, yeah.
yes. Well,
Even making, do you remember going to the kitchen and making food? That was one of his activities with the occupational
oh
therapist.
yeah, did he make cornbread muffins or something?
Yeah, it
Is
was
that
something, but I just remember just the way he was like looking around the cabinets, just like his mannerisms. They were
mhm.
just so him, but
Uh-huh.
without that filter. And I
Yeah.
just like
Yes.
him eating the food being like, yeah, this is gross. And you're like, you know, it just made you laugh. Like you just got to spend time with him. Like it was sweet.
Right. It was. And I you and I went to dinner. Both nights we got to go to dinner, which was such a gift to me. And we had a really lovely time at one of the restaurants down the road, and beautiful conversation. And towards the end of it, I had missed 2 calls from the Shepherd Center, which by the time I realized I missed them, I was a little alarmed. So I call back, and I come to find out it's the nurses saying, "Hey, we have a situation on our hands. Michael has barricaded his door shut with whatever chairs were in his room, will not let the nurses in to take his vitals and give him his medicine. He's saying you're not allowed in my hotel room. He's getting out of hand. Would you come and help us?" And I remember being like, I can't even get
Yeah.
2 hours away to enjoy a dinner. We go back. I say, Jenny, go get yourself settled. And we were staying in the apartment attached to Shepherd's. And so you go on, and I walk back, and I enter his floor, and I see the nurses station, and they're all like, "Oh, he was a handful." And I'm just like, gosh, what in the world? Like, imagining what that was like for him to barricade the door shut. Like, the door doesn't lock. So what smarts did he use to make that happen? Like, he was still strong. And it's funny to think of that happening. But by the time I had gotten there, they had resolved the situation, and he was laying in his bed, and pretty much half asleep, kind of dozing in and out. So they must have tranquilized him or something. And I just remember being so overwhelmed with emotion, truly like deep sadness. Like, wow, I just got a call, as if a babysitter called the mom saying, "Hey, your toddler is out of control. I need you to come home now and handle the situation." But that was from my husband, like my man, the guy who'd always been my protector, my provider. And here he was in this bed enclosure, having, with all the medical bracelets around him, clearly a hospital patient, a little bit delusional at night. And I just remember like throwing myself over his body. And the only prayer I could utter was like, "Deliver us." I just prayed over and over, "Deliver us, deliver us, deliver us from this." And I remember just thinking that was my specific prayer, because I had this feeling that like we had to go through something, like we had to walk through it. It was unlikely that fingers were going to snap and the situation would just be different in a moment. It felt to me like I needed the Lord to carry me through it, but I was kind of bargaining or pleading with the Lord, like, "I get it. I get that we're here, but promise me that you will bring us through. Promise me that we will be delivered from this," was my heart. And I, so many times that month, I wanted rescue so desperately, or I wanted to run away from the situation, from our troubles, from our problems. Like, I think that's where I was at before I called you, was like, I want to run, I want to get out of here, but I can't. And so then the culmination of that night, having been called back from dinner, having him have barricading the door shut, causing a scene, and then me just being like, "God, this is awful. This can't be the rest of our life. Like, deliver us out of this." And now it was fuzzy. Like, I don't know how it's going to work out. I still don't. And I didn't then, but like, I think I've been learning that we can walk through these times. I don't know how it's going to end, but I can trust the one who does. And I can trust him enough. I can trust the Lord enough to ask him, "Okay, you've got to carry me. You've got to deliver me from this." And I think like that's a really beautiful thing that I've been learning. And I hope that people can take some encouragement away from this, is just that we don't have to fully understand something or fully know the whole truth about something to still trust it. And in my case, it's to still trust the Lord. He's mysterious. Why he does things, why he works the way he works, I don't fully know. But I can trust him, and I can still benefit from his peace and from his presence. So I think just, that time, and I always associate that lesson like with my time with you, because it just was on the tail end of our time together, of just this like, deliver us, Lord, get us through this. I don't know how, and I understand you might not tell me how, but be the one to carry me. May your presence get us through. And he uses people in that a lot, and you are one of them. So as you are listening along with us, take whatever nuggets you want from this, but just know that the Lord is near, and he hears you, and he is real, and he is our ultimate source of hope, and he is what sustains us. And like, open your eyes to the people who are around you in this life, because you might need to text your own Jenny someday and ask for help, and she'll come flying to wherever you are. But Jenny, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your memories with us.
It was beautiful.
I love you.
Love you too.
It's good to be with you. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time on the podcast.